If a work problem has you stumped or you're struggling with writer's block, you might need to rethink how you're thinking. There are two main modes of thinking, and one is better for creative work. So today, I'm going to help you figure out how to get into that mode in what's called diffuse thinking.
We'll make sure you walk away with 3 simple tips for getting past your next challenge.
Right. So let's back up and talk about your brain first. If the human brain were a car, it would have 2 basic gears, focused and diffuse. Focused thinking is pretty self-explanatory. It's sort of like thinking in close-up. You're zoomed in on a specific problem, blocking out the rest of the world. This mode is extremely useful for mastering technical skills, like shooting free throws, or reducing fractions, or practicing a musical instrument, right?
Yeah.
You also switch over to focused thought when you're under a lot of stress or pressure. So if your house is burning down, you're going to focus on the immediate tasks like escaping or calling 911. You're not thinking about how the fire relates to public policy issues or disco music. Anyway, that's focused thinking. Then there's diffuse thinking. That works in the opposite way. Diffuse thinking zooms out instead of focusing on a specific issue. That lets you see the big picture and make loose general connections. Diffuse thought is key to innovating, reframing intractable problems, and collaborating across departments or disciplines. But you're dealing with a bit of a catch-22 when you're up against certain creative problems. If you're in school or you're at work, for example, you usually have to solve a creative problem on a deadline. That deadline puts you under stress and triggers focused thought. But there are a few ways you can shift gears. Here's 3 tips for diffuse thinking. The first one, make failure impossible. You think more diffusely when you're calm, so it can help to tweak the way you think about your project. Instead of thinking, I have to figure this out or I've got to get this done, think in exploratory terms. Try, I'm going to see if this works, or I'm throwing ideas at the wall to see what sticks. And after that, you can't fail. Or in more technical terms, you've established psychological safety. Tip number 2, take a break. You can also think of diffuse thinking as letting your mind wander. That's the opposite of ceaseless work and hyper-efficiency, and yet it is essential to critical problem solving. Naps are pretty great breaks, and so are walks. We've talked on this podcast before about how both can really open up your creativity. And the third and final tip, change locations. If you're stuck in a mental rut and you can, walk somewhere that makes you happy. Whether that's a wild nature preserve or an ultra-clean coffee shop, some spaces are just more conducive to diffuse thought than others.